Hello, my friends. It's Matthew Street. Welcome to my channel. As always, I really appreciate you being here. And folks, just a quick fun video here. I was lying in bed the other night. I was half asleep, just before falling asleep. And I started getting these crazy thoughts like, when you're a little kid and someone talks about the term century, it's could be like not only 100 years, it could be like 1,000 years to you, or 5,000. It might as well be 10,000 years. When you're a kid, when someone says the next century or last century or a century from now or a century ago, you can't even process it when you're a little kid. You're just like, oh, that's a million years from now. I don't care about that. But when you really think about it, how, as you get older, a century or a half a century or a quarter century, it's not that long amount of time when you really think about it. So I was thinking about it that here we are in 2023, the advent of 2023. 50 years ago, a half a century ago, was 1973. Now, for you younger folks, you probably think that's forever. For me, it doesn't seem like that long ago. I was just a little kid. Well, I shouldn't say little kid. I was born in 61, so I was 11 for part of the year, and then I turned 12 in 1973. But it doesn't seem that long ago for me. As a matter of fact, to show you my Beatle fandom, here's a picture of Matthew Street back in... Do I look the same? Same teeth. I haven't lost those teeth yet, folks. Anyway, this is me back in 1973, 11 going on 12, I believe. And I had the Beatle haircut, had to have that. I mean, I was a fanatic even then for the Beatles. But it got me thinking that this doesn't seem that long ago for me. 1973, what a year it was, folks. And when I think back on it, the great music that came out 50 years ago, and I can't show everything. I want to focus mainly on the Beatle releases from that year, because let's be honest, 3 years after the breakup, the Beatles were still killing it. I mean, they were still on fire. They were just unbelievable what they were accomplishing as solo artists and as the Beatles, and you'll see that shortly. But I mean, yeah, I don't have an album of this, but I have a CD of Dark Side of the Moon, came out 50 years ago, and then you had albums like just real quick, some quick ones I pulled out. Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. John Denver, Farewell Andromeda. The Beach Boys, Holland album. Bruce Springsteen, Greetings from Asbury Park. Great one, $1 Billion Babies by Alice Cooper. Love that album. Jim Croce, Life and Times. What a great artist. The Who, Quadrophenia. Now, a couple I didn't pull out that I could have. I've got Goat's Head Soup by the Rolling Stones. That's another great 73 album. There's some others I have too. But anyway, that's not the point of this video, folks. The point of this video is I was into all that music I just showed you. But I was just at the beginning stages of my power pop fanaticism with albums like Ass from Badfinger, 1973. Or the great Blue Ash, No More, No Less. If you don't know this album, folks, get it. I mean, they really don't look power pop, but there's power pop stylings here, and it's kind of maybe part of that foundation of power pop. So I consider that in there. And then last but not least, this was my go-to in 1973, Raspberry Side 3 with the Bushel of Raspberries die-cut cover. You got to get this if you don't have it. Great, great album. But then I was thinking about the Beatles and all the great releases we had. So, Paul comes out right away out of the box in April of 73 with Red Rose Speedway. Classic album. I mean, I love this album to death. I even love the double Red Rose Speedway that came out a couple of years ago even more. It even cemented for me more what a fabulous piece of music this is. All right. Then we had George, who comes out in May of 73 with Living in the Material World. And when it first came out, I grabbed it right away as a kid, or my parents bought it for me or something, who knows. But I liked it, I enjoyed it, but I've really grown over the decades in becoming an older and wiser man to really appreciate and love this album. And I put it on par with right at the top tier of George's releases. All right, not long after that, Ringo, it was John next. October of 73, John comes out with Mind Games, which is so criminally underrated for John. It's a fabulous, fabulous album. One of my favorites of his. A great, great pop album from John Lennon, 1973. And then it was November of 73 that Ringo and his Tour de Force, the Ringo album, came out. I loved it. So many great singles off this album. As a matter of fact, all the Beatles, solo Beatles that year. 1973 was the year of the Beatles and the solo Beatles because they had hit after hit after hit. All four of them had top hits, charting hits, unbelievable. And Ringo certainly contributed. And then very late in the year, 73, Paul came back again with another release in December of 73 with the Tour de Force of his Band on the Run. So many great songs, so many great singles. I mean, you can't beat it. But for me, folks, when I was this little kid with my Beatle haircut in 1973, these two albums came out and just knocked my socks off. I was in Beatlemania heaven, folks. My parents went out and got me these right away. I don't know if it was for a holiday or for a special occasion or a birthday or whatever. But these came out. They were released April of 73. And I know I had them like right after. I mean, maybe I wasn't running down to the store, driving my car down there at age 12 to get it. But it wasn't long that I begged, did what I had to do, borrowed, or whatever I had to do. Didn't steal, though. And I made sure I got these albums because, folks, they are absolutely stunning. Can you believe it? We're coming up on 50 years for this great, great release. What a fine, outstanding release. 62 to 66. And the great 67 to 70. With the iconic cover. I mean, how can you... I know they were older pictures from, you know, the Please Please Me sessions, and then they did this for the Get Back sessions, which never happened as an album cover. But then to take those photos in 1973 and create something as beautiful as this, you got to hand it to the design department or the graphics department, whatever you want to call it, the arts department. They really killed it with this design, the red, the blue, early young Beatles, later older Beatles. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. And from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, this was a #1 album. And I'm pretty sure this was a #2 album. I could be off on that by 1 or 2. I don't think it made #1, but it was probably held out by this one, you know. But I think it was #2. But folks, wow, 1973, you know. Here we got the Beatles. Here we have Young Math Street, Beatlemania, full action, power pop, rock and roll, 50 years ago. That's what blows me away, is that this is half a century ago. Where does the time go, folks? How does this happen? How are we sitting here now and able to look back? Whoa, remember half a century ago? Half a century? Are you kidding me? I mean, I still feel like this kid right here, you know? This is who I feel like right here. I still feel like young Matt Street. What happened? I'm old. I'm in my 60s. I have 2 kids. I have 3 grandchildren. I'm married. I own a home. How did this happen? How did I grow up? Why am I here? Who am I? I don't know. I want to go back. I want to go back. I want to go back again to the good old days. Sorry, folks. Just having a little fun. 50 years. Wow. 1973. Unreal. I love you all. Please, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Hit the like button. Ring the bell for notifications. What is it all these people say I never say? Please, folks, I appreciate you being here. I really do. And I love you all. Bye-bye.